Before the war, Canada was often seen as Britain's polite younger brother, a peaceful nation, farmers, lumberjacks, hockey players, a country better known for wheat fields and frozen winters than battlefield legends. But somewhere between the beaches of Normandy and the forests of Germany, something changed. Because by 1944, whispers were spreading through the ranks of the Wehrmacht. And they weren't about the British. They weren't about the Americans. They were about the Canadians. The Germans had learned to fear them. And the strange thing is, nobody saw it coming. To understand why German soldiers respected, and sometimes outright feared, Canadian troops, you have to go back to the beginning. September 10th, 1939. Ottawa. Canada declares war on Nazi Germany. Unlike Britain, which entered the war automatically, Canada makes its own decision. It's a statement. The young nation is stepping onto the world stage, but nobody expects Canada to become one of the most effective fighting forces of the war. The country has only 11 million people. Its army is tiny, and many German officers view Canadian soldiers as inexperienced colonials, men who would surely break against battle-hardened Wehrmacht veterans. They are about to be very, very wrong, because Canadians aren't arriving in Europe empty-handed. Many grew up hunting. Many grew up working farms. Many had spent their lives surviving harsh winters and tough conditions. And perhaps most importantly, Canadian units inherited something from the First World War, a reputation. At Vimy Ridge and Passchendaele, Canadian soldiers had earned a fearsome name. German veterans remembered them, and some officers still carried those memories into the Second World War. But memories are one thing. Reality is another, and reality arrives on June 6th, 1944, Normandy, D-Day. As thousands of Allied ships pound the French coast, Canadian troops prepare to storm Juno Beach. Pause for a second. The Germans have spent years turning the Atlantic coast into a fortress. Machine guns, concrete bunkers, mines, barbed wire, artillery. Many Allied commanders expect horrifying casualties, and when the first waves hit the beach, that's exactly what happens. Landing craft explode, men drown, machine gun bullets tear through the water. Chaos is everywhere. But the Canadians keep moving. Small groups begin fighting their way inland. Bunkers are cleared. Strong points are destroyed. German defenders are overwhelmed, and by the end of the day, something astonishing has happened. Canadian troops have advanced farther inland than almost any other Allied force. German commanders are stunned. These men were supposed to be amateurs. Instead, they fight with determination that surprises everyone. But D-Day is only the beginning, because the real nightmare for German soldiers lies ahead, the Battle of Normandy, and especially Caen. For weeks, Canadians are thrown into some of the bloodiest fighting of the war. Village after village, field after field, house after house, the Germans defend desperately. The Waffen-SS, some of Hitler's most fanatical troops, fight to the death, but the Canadians refuse to stop. Casualties mount. Entire units are shattered. Still, they keep attacking. German reports begin describing Canadian troops as aggressive and relentless. One German officer later admitted that Canadian artillery was among the most devastating he had ever experienced, and that artillery becomes one of Canada's deadliest weapons, because wherever Canadian infantry goes, a storm follows. Shells, thousands of them, accurate, continuous, merciless. German soldiers quickly learn that if Canadians are nearby, artillery isn't far behind, and surviving it becomes a matter of luck. But there is another reason the Canadians earn such a terrifying reputation. They don't forget. In June 1944, news spreads among Canadian units about atrocities committed by the Waffen-SS. Captured Canadian prisoners have been murdered. Young men who surrendered, executed, shot, sometimes hours after being taken prisoner. The anger is explosive. Many Canadian soldiers swear revenge, and stories begin circulating among German troops. Stories that the Canadians are taking fewer prisoners. Stories that they are fighting with a fury unlike anything the Germans expected. Whether every rumor is true hardly matters. Fear spreads because in war, reputation can become a weapon, and Canada's reputation is growing. Then comes the Scheldt. To autumn 1944. a battlefield most people have never heard of. Flooded fields, mud, rain, mines, machine guns, German paratroopers. The conditions are miserable. But without victory here, the port of Antwerp cannot be used. And without Antwerp, the Allied advance may grind to a halt. So once again, the Canadians are sent in. And once again, they endure hell. Entire battalions suffer terrible losses, but slowly, relentlessly, they push the Germans back one position after another, one island after another, until finally the Scheldt is cleared. British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery later called it one of the toughest battles of the war, and the Canadians had carried much of the burden. By 1945, German soldiers know exactly who they are facing. The maple leaf patch on a shoulder no longer means inexperienced troops. It means trouble. It means artillery. It means relentless attacks. And it means soldiers who have already fought their way from Normandy to the Rhine. But perhaps the most remarkable thing is this. Canada never fielded an army as large as America. It never possessed the resources of Britain or the Soviet Union. Yet over 1 million Canadians served during the war. More than 45,000 never came home, and by the end of the conflict their reputation had spread across Europe. German prisoners often expressed surprise. Many had expected weak colonial troops. Instead, they encountered highly trained, determined soldiers who refused to quit. The polite nation from the north had become one of Hitler's most dangerous enemies, and perhaps that's the greatest irony of all. Because the Canadians never entered the war seeking fear. They weren't trying to build a terrifying reputation. They simply fought and fought and fought, until even their enemies were forced to respect them. But Canadian soldiers weren't the only Allied troops who earned a fearsome name, because in the next chapter of the war, another group of warriors would become legends in German eyes. Men whose arrival on the battlefield often meant one thing: no retreat, no surrender, only destruction. And those men were the Soviet Guards. Why did German soldiers fear them so much? That's a story for another time.